and has looked solid on. So I feel like there's a lot of different things to look out for when it comes down to these maps. And one thing that I do want to keep in mind, Asylum, District, Training Grounds, that exact same order. Does it sound familiar? It does, like because that was the final set that we saw from Reciprocity just last week.
It might as well, at this point, be the auto pick. Like, if these teams don't want to do pick and bans, just go with Asylum, District, and TG, because that is just the map set that we see so many times. But this is going to be a fun matchup, and already off the rip. PK is feeling the vengeance, the wrath of Reciprocity as an awkward fight goes through. Powers and Chaos as both can't seem to take each other out. Even with the Lancer Fire helping, the most awkward fight of 2020 takes place, and Chaos is able to take it over Powers. And it was a very rough start for PK. Reciprocity with a nice lead. They've gotten control of Alpha and Bravo, but it looks as if PK starting to apply that pressure onto B. Let's see if they can lock it in.
That'd be the big question. Flash tossed down as Kenny receiving the pressure. A lot of Pittsburgh Knights players starting to be allocated toward what is the bottom side of the map, looking to try and attempt for the objective. Successful so far in Franchise. Unfortunately blind. He is old, but not that old, at least as of yet, as Kenny does falter. Powers receiving some shots in stride as well. Doing some nice damage, but the pistol will end up cleaning him up in the meantime, as that will be Pittsburgh Knights now starting to swarm onto A.
Yeah, fantastic retake, and this is their opportunity to go for the domination and lock in round number 1 in their favor. And they're gonna, if anything, they're going to be closing that gap, but I think they should be able to get the domination here. Franchise will push in. He's going to get absolutely demolished. Quadruple teamed as Kenny throws his hat in the ring. He's not going to go anywhere. Powers, he's not going to spawn back in. And Pittsburgh Knights, despite a rough initial, got that battle won over on Bravo. Won a couple of great fights, allowed them to push in, I believe, 4 or 5 strong onto 2 players from Reciprocity, and that was going to be the end of it. So overall, what looked like it was going to be a bad round from Pittsburgh Knights, they turn it around, and they win the first round. A lot of rounds.
A lot of rounds indeed. A lot of references as well, as Pittsburgh Knights looking solid off the start. And that's kind of what you expect them to play like, considering that they just beat Hive in a dominant 2-0. They played on Icebound 5-0, later went to Training Grounds, which was Hive's map choice, won 5-1. I mean, a Hive roster that at times looks stellar, at other times can maybe look a little bit underwhelming. Regardless, Pittsburgh Knights, Hive, you expect that maybe to be a closer game. Not at all the case. So Pittsburgh, they've got to be feeling good. I know Reciprocity wouldn't get to watch that match, at least on broadcast, but they had a nice 2-0 over Carnage as well. I think you'd probably expect for Hive to be kind of more of the motivator if you are Pittsburgh, in terms of that one expected to be closer, but regardless, we'll see if Pittsburgh can keep up that same level of play. They looked great when it came down to the first round. A quick little resurgence as Franchise is starting to feel the flames. However, takes down Identivs before he starts receiving a few more shots. Chaos down. Good sequences early here for Rec.
Rec are playing a lot of pressure. Not only are they going to be in control of Bravo, you already see 3 strong on Alpha. They're going to go ahead and apply that pressure onto Sleeper and Monkeys. They'll back up for the time being, and I do agree with that. No reason to get crazy at this point. You know Pittsburgh Knights, they're going to be bunkered up. But with that kill onto Monkeys, that definitely opens up the door. Still taking their time, not wanting to push in just yet. They'll officially back off, but that could have been a pretty decent push, but it also could have been deadly, right? Because it would allow Pittsburgh Knights to potentially wipe Reciprocity and then push for the double home hill setup themselves, apply that pressure to B, and then, of course, we've seen the story time and time again, the other team taking control. So regardless, though, Reciprocity backing off, I agree with that, and now they're going to go ahead and put their defenses over on Bravo. And
that's a very Reciprocity thing to do as well. This is a roster that at times can be known for playing a little bit slower, but not all that shocking. They just had a reference back. Powers, shots from either end, and you notice the full-on collapse for Pittsburgh Knights. They send 4 strong to take down the young god, and it will, in fact, be working out. Franchise doing some solid damage. It actually continues to. He'll deal with the pressure necessary, keeping in mind that A, currently up in limbo, player number 7 in the middle of going for an overextension will actually win that fight. So a big sequence coming through from Identivs as he'll just have to go for the decap. And that will save Pittsburgh, allow for them to stay alive in this round. His teammates now are off of spawn. Obviously, Kenny waiting for the defeat, but still, that was a big play for Identivs, the captain coming through clutch.
Yeah, wonderful job from Identivs clutching up. Even though he doesn't secure C for himself, He maintains the round long enough for Pittsburgh Knights to spawn up and then capture their own home hill to stay alive. But you notice that score lead landed 202 and counting to 100. We have a 100-point lead for Reciprocity. At this point in time, they are definitely in control of the game. They've got Bravo and Charlie locked in, and as you notice, Pittsburgh Knights, they're not even going to be spawning up. They're giving this round up, and rightly so. Reciprocity is finally going to put a point on the board.
Will indeed. Pittsburgh struggling there toward the end as Sleeper does get finalized. And a good response coming through from Rec, and maybe even some emotes as well. I think I saw a team kill there at the end. Yeah, you know, it is what it is. Players, they do what they want. They're motivated. They're hot. They're feeling good.
If you're sitting at 4 out of 4 lives, it doesn't hurt, right?
That's
You're going to be spawning back up. You're going to get that life back, be capped out regardless, so might as well have some fun in the end. If you can't have fun, then what's the point of playing the game?
Oh,
right?
I
That's
love that.
At the end of the day,
that should be on a pillow somewhere.
That's what it's all about. I think it might be. It definitely.
Did you go to Hobby Lobby the other day and just see that? Just think, wow.
Or go to Hobby Lobby, buy the supplies, make it yourself. There
There you go.
Right?
I like
Be
that.
a crafty individual.
Craftsmanship. It's
Hey,
underrated.
listen, it definitely is, man. I feel like we're moving away from that. But I can't even draw a circle, so what am I talking about?
I can't either.
I'm telling you, sometimes
Here, watch.
it's
I'm going
hard.
to draw a circle right now.
Let's look at it.
Okay.
I'm not going to lie. That was pretty good. It looks like the top that's not connecting with the bottom.
Yeah,
it's like kind of like
there was
some
no
hair
way to do that
on the top of that.
There's no way. How about now? Ready?
Chat has no idea what's going. Oh my, well, you cheated. Though.
I did. I cheated
It's a
with the
perfect
app that I
circle.
used.
Regardless,
for notes.
though, it's kind of like an egg. It looked like an egghead. What you just
Oh,
made. So, okay.
like the reference.
Little reference there, baby. Reciprocity off to
Oh,
a good
no.
start, but the instant from my Denivs would
That's a
not
scrambled
get a
egg
nice
now.
He's taking franchise powers out. Good stuff overall.
Oh, goodness.
Reciprocity still in control, though. Pittsburgh Knights looking to get crafty. They're going to have one player on B. Hasn't tried to take it as of yet. You do notice, though, Pittsburgh Knights applying some great pressure over towards Alpha, but in the end, a couple of nice wins from Reciprocity to stay alive. Franchise holding his own. Chaos and Identitas will drop along with Dezo. That's going to be 3 down for Pittsburgh Knights. Domination already looking to take place. Pittsburgh Knights, despite only having one player up, Monkeys, he's still fighting for A, but with them going down, Chaos and Identitas will spawn back up. Reciprocity, they're just going to take control once again, start closing that deficit.
And that's the worrisome part for Pittsburgh, especially when you push forward like that. You're banking on walking away with the round or at least continuing to put on some pressure. They don't back up in time, and they instantly lose the advantages that they had. And that's the reason why we gave Reciprocity the props for the earlier round, the ability for them to back up. For them to pretty much back off of the aggression, hold on to the advantage, and kind of show a little more respect to the other team in terms of just knowing the slam power that can exist. You have to be aware of it. Pittsburgh instantly trying to do some damage up close as they'll take down Franchise at the start. Rushies in the meantime on the other side of the map, able to drop Dezenide. So if you are Pittsburgh, you're starting to make progression little by little on both sides. Can they pick up Sleeper? Nope, not in the nick of time. It'd be a big pick if Kenny can find it. Unfortunately, loses his squad mate, which allows for the pinch to partake. And that's Pittsburgh continuing to succeed.
That pressure now.
The trains!
Getting strong down low. The train, in fact, moving forward. Identiv's in a fight with Rushies. Gets a little awkward, but a nice shot from the distance. And it looks as if, did the train take somebody out? I do see the train. Okay, well, that was quite interesting, but it looks as if Pittsburgh Knights do, in fact, regain control. Not a moment too soon. Reciprocity starting to edge their way closer and closer to that 200 mark. But at this point, Pittsburgh should be able to apex it, maybe before, just a little bit after. But regardless, they're in control, but they're spread thin. Reciprocity looking to make a move, but they're spread thin themselves. A lot of different lanes they can take, but you do see them collapsing back down onto Bravo, and they look as if they might be able to retake this quite easily.
Now let the double smoke that we see. Rushies, of course, feels the flames, has to reference back. Kenny yet again being taken down in the early phases as the train will come through. Will we see it be a factor? We'll have to watch as Rushies, actually when that train comes through, he pretty much allows for himself to have that 1v1 fight. However, all things considered, players deciding not to spawn in, and probably for good reason. Kenny and Franchise tapping out, as that will in fact be Pittsburgh, who will walk away with a very neck-and-neck round, but you got to give them props for the way that they managed to make it work. Rushies, just for good measure, gets pretty much sideswiped as he entered the library, which is never a sentence that I intended on probably ever saying.
You know, we were highlighting Reciprocity in the beginning about backing off that fight, not going for that domination, that triple take, but maybe That was the right call. In hindsight, them backing off allowed enough time for Pittsburgh Knights to stay alive. And we do have to highlight that play from Identives rotating over towards Charlie. That's the only reason why that domination didn't take place. He held his own on Charlie. That allowed for Pittsburgh Knights to spawn back up, regain control of their home hill, which was Alpha, and they turned that round completely in their favor. So overall, Pittsburgh Knights played that incredibly well.
Yep.
They were poised the entire way through, and that's why they were able to take that victory. So we sit here and we highlight Reciprocity for backing off. Maybe a little aggression wouldn't hurt them in the end.
Yeah, that definitely could be something to keep in mind. Like I said, biggest strength, also biggest weakness maybe for Reciprocity. They could be feeling that already. Good old Bolt Hawks off the rip. Personally, one of my favorite weapons to look out for. And in a guy like Identive's hands, can start to be a menace. And I like how much different this round has started off. We've been talking about the smokes, the utility off the rip, just being so chaotic. Now it comes to a standstill. The train conductor can't actually even see anybody before he slams on that horn. Nobody spotted as of yet, and I'm sure once this train begins to come through, yep, you're going to see Identives make sure he's in that center lane. Train coming on the left side, at least for Pittsburgh Knights' perspective. There's the flash. Everybody in clear visuals. The ensign gets tossed down. Identives instantly met with the counter flash. And a whole lot of damage being done. Keep in mind the middle fight as well as the fight toward the top side. Still back and forth. Player number 3 beginning to aggress. That's Rushies. And speaking of aggressions toward the bottom side, that's going to be Pittsburgh Knights attempting at grabbing B. Rushies in the meantime, unfortunately, loses the fight over at A. So if you're Rec, you're not really making a whole lot of progress on either side. However, just as I say that, Identive's teammate ends up falling as he decides to fade back. He's still pistol whipping players, but not finding any frags.
Yeah, a lot of chaos in the beginning, but in the end, it was Reciprocity retaking that lead. We do see a couple of kills going down as I heard the crunch. I totally thought that was the train crunching one of the players down. Identives, though, trying to double team Franchise with the help of Chaos will in fact win that fight. Now it's going to be Kenny from the back as they'll go ahead and take him out and then go ahead and secure Bravo. You do see up top, though, it is in fact going to be Monkeys, right? We saw him earlier with that nice fight onto Alpha. He's now overextending. He's going to be on the home hill, and he's doing great work. That's going to be Ices going down, but it's going to be short-lived. Powers will in fact take him out. But Pittsburgh Knights in this position, they are used to being aggressive. They love to be aggressive. Eventually, they're going to have to back off. Reciprocity fighting a great fight, finally pushing them back, but it got a little bit scary.
Definitely did. A sequence that easily could have flipped toward the other side. However, Reciprocity staying alive and progressing forward. Kenny, goodness, tell you what, nearly got a free haircut. As Rushy's already down to 0 respawns. Definitely something you have to be aware of if you're Rec for the future of this half. Here comes the engagements as Reciprocity continue to cycle and spawn on forward. Icy's trying to get that decap, but he's met with Lancer Fire from 3 different perspectives, one of those being Identives.
This definitely looks like the right call from Reciprocity. Stacking 3 strong down on Bravo. They need to retake it, but now their only option, they have to get the break on A. They're not going to win this at this point, even with a 2 cap. So winning those up top fights is definitely a way to go about it. Sleeper is, in fact, going to get dropped, too, so now he's permanently going to be out. Chaos is going to drop. Hold up a second. Reciprocity is going for a retake. Identives will drop, and that looks as if Reciprocity effectively turns this round in their favor, as it looks like Monkeys, though, is, in fact, going to be fighting, trying to get it in. He does get a touch, but it's not going to be enough. Pittsburgh Knights at 240. They should be finished off here, but a nice break comes through, but they're not going to be able to win the fights, and a good retake from Reciprocity. Pittsburgh Knights can't do anything. Just like that, we're going to be tied up going into second half, 2-2.
Rushies is an animal. I want to keep in mind that he is on 0 respawns and won a 1v2. Most players would reference back. He realized that that was the position where he had to rush on forward. He manages to make the play. He's staying alive. He's knifing players in the back, carving up Pittsburgh Knights. That was so impressive for me to watch because in the clutch, we talk about him at least off the start of rounds. The way that he closes rounds as well are so impressive. By far the player that makes the ultimate difference, allows for the team to stay alive. My goodness, Rushies coming up big for Rec, as now that will be us all level at 2 coming into the second half. And it looks at Pittsburgh Knights Decided to put a good old drop shot
Oh, yeah.
over just toward the south of Pavilion.
Seen quite a few drop shots on Asylum. I think that fight is so crucial, especially for that push-pull fight up top. You have to win that. If you're not winning your drop shot fight, at least off the rip, you're going to be at a huge disadvantage.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Power's going to be the first one to potentially get a touch, but he knows he has to wait because Identitas or Dezo could, in fact, cut in. Sleeper's going to be there. Instant is, in fact, going to be missed, so go ahead and backtrack. And we're going to be at a standstill. He might go for the quick pick, but I think Sleeper is just going to add a little bit too much aggression. Kenny, though, from the flank is going to be able to pepper them in. That's going to force him to funnel straight into Powers, who will capitalize and get the drop shot in his favor. So a good win for Reciprocity. Despite Pittsburgh, getting a little touch on E, they're not going to be able to do a lot with it. The only player who's going to be up there is going to be Monkeys. So Reciprocity at this point should be able to retake E and be in control off the initial.
Kenny takes down Identitas in that particular situation, and if you are Pittsburgh, it's a little bit frustrating. Are they aware of Monkey's positioning? Well, now they do. The quick blitz, as Rec will add that head to their collection. Powers, player number 1, just in the back lines right here. Have to keep that in mind over at this E hill. It is so hard to deal with if you're Pittsburgh. To jump on this hill, you almost have to sacrifice your life knowingly, or even make a bait that's convincing enough to distract the opponents. Look at this play from Rushies, just trying to be up close. And that's the negative if you're Pittsburgh, is that you're going to have the drop shot to deal with. You're also going to have the flank coming in from Rushies that also could be inbound. Keep in mind, Chaos rushes forward a good distance if you're Pittsburgh. Drop shot still has yet to see much usage, if any at all. Rushies does take down one, actually does hand it over to Icy, so apologies for that as Sleeper gets taken down, and there we have it. A wiping of the plate. If you're Rec, Pittsburgh ran straight on through. They thought they had control, and that's exactly what Rec wanted them to think. You rush on into a condensed area, and that's where the drop shot can go to work.
Yeah, they kind of funneled them in, didn't they? That was a very interesting push. I for sure thought Pittsburgh Knights was going to stop on E. They didn't. And I think the only reason why they didn't is because they knew the drop shot was going to be a free kill. So there was no reason to stay put. I think their only option was to push all the way through to Gallery and potentially try to get a couple of kills. But handing off that drop shot to Icy was the play to make, right? And he ended up connecting. Pittsburgh Knights literally funneled directly into Gallery, and they all just got picked off one by one. So a great play from Reciprocity. Honestly, a 200 IQ play overall to have them funnel in, knowing exactly what they were going to be up to. And they now lead 3-2. Still very close, though. Pittsburgh Knights could, in fact, turn this around. But again, it starts off that initial. They have to capitalize on that drop shot.
Yeah, they absolutely do. Definitely something you have to be aware of for the future of this game. As here we go, funneling in. Powers, at least off the rip. Does get tagged up. Not dropped, as one player decides to go ahead and reference on over the cover. Instantly foiled, and that will allow for Powers in back-to-back rounds to claim control over the drop shot through the trees. Not this time. Solid idea. And to be honest, I know that we have the glory of being able to see through walls with the perspective that we have, but I'll tell you what, that was a shot where if you're Powers, that was just all instinct.
Oh, yeah.
And in that particular situation, it just doesn't work out.
Yeah, and also you had that player calling probably where the players were located out. They could have even been marked right from the player on tracks, but overall, I get the idea. It just doesn't work out, unfortunately. Pittsburgh Knights now pushing forward again very aggressively, but straight into the funnel as Kenny and Icy will take Monkeys and Dezo down. Now that push is going to happen, and Chaos is going to find himself on the receiving end. Now the question is, where does Reciprocity stop? Do they continue to push forward, apply that pressure, and go for the domination, or do they back off like Reciprocity has done in the past?
Looks as if, whether willingly or not. Oh, a nice shot from Identivs. Kenny feeling that one in the morning. Oh, nice little pellet to the neck, as Franchise will make him pay from one captain to the next. Monkeys at least will finish off what Identiv started. And the trains may become effective. Sleeper, they're all siphoned in. They somehow escaped. That is so impressive. Rushies
awesome.
Literally staring down his barrel into a very narrow line sight. Still can't finish them off, but when the engagements repartake, he will manage to have some assistance coming through from Kenny. But I'll tell you what, man, that was impressive stuff for Pittsburgh to stay alive the way they did.
Yeah, the pucker factor was real, man. I mean, you're rolling straight with the train right there, plus you also have an Asher, like, aiming down or breathing down your neck. Impressive stuff. Pittsburgh Knights might be able to turn this around, but they need to do it quickly. Reciprocity starting to take away with this round, and that new fight for the drop shot should be coming up relatively soon, even though Powers will be in control of it. So domination potentially coming through. Pittsburgh now in a fight, but it is in fact going to be one up top. Reciprocity retaking E for themselves, and that's going to be the domination. Reciprocity now leads 4-2. What was close in the first half, not so much in the second.
Yeah.
And we could, in fact, see a quick 5-2 in round number 1 of semifinals.
It's about 3 rounds in a row, and a majority of those rounds, that's when the drop shot is available. And you got to give props to Rec for managing to pretty much just allocate the right resources to be able to get there in the right amount of time, for Powers to be pretty much put in a position to succeed over and over again. I think if you're Pittsburgh, that's a play where you're like, guys, we got to figure out a way to get the drop shot out of their hands. Our initials have to be more effective, because if not, we will never win the fight at E. We will always be in a permanent disadvantage. And if you're a team, obviously it's still early in the second half based off of rounds, but even for the future of the game, if you're starting to struggle in the second half, if you're maybe losing a lot of lives, which is going to be the situation they find themselves in, they're not really going to have really a lot to play with, because you could be down in player count, you could be down in lives, and you could also be having to deal with the ever difficult drop shot. I think this is a make or break situation for them, where they need to get this one in their hands, or at least allow for it to not be effective. And based off what we've seen, the effectiveness of the drop shot has not been the issue.
Well, Powers does get taken out. He's been the guy who's been getting those quick picks, and Identitas was able to win that. Dezo will, in fact, get his hands on a drop shot. So this is probably the most solid start we have seen from Pittsburgh Knights as of yet. I was curious to know if that utility being added, the shock, as well as the instant on both sides, would be able to make a difference, and it seems as if it did. A couple well-placed shocks, instants will, in fact, make a big difference. Now that fight for E is going to take place, and I think Reciprocity knows this is probably not a fight that they are going to be capable of winning, as the push is now going to take place. Dezo's going to open us up with a drop onto Rushies. A nice shot indeed. Reciprocity has no choice. They're forced to back off here.
They are. They have to bow down to the power weapon. Here comes the flash. That's a good attempt for Reciprocity to retake. Keeping in mind, Dezo still got a shot ready to go, and good night to Franchise. A late birthday gift, as Dezo will make him pay for that one. They're there on the retakes. They're there for the revives. Keep in mind that fight toward the bottom side. Player 7, which is going to be Identivs, taking on Kenny, as that could allow for an OE opportunity to happen in the future. However, it's about when Reciprocity wants to engage, when they want to dive on into this hill. And Icy actually does get taken down. Powers, of course, is going to be there for the revive, but they also do have to be careful about how many times that they do drop, because if they're put in a position of which they start to rush forward, they've already dropped 2 times, obviously they're going to be wiped off the map, so something they have to be aware of here.
Very curious to know about the positioning from Franchise. You know, he's running low on lives. He's 1 of 4, and he's going for that OE attempt. I appreciate the pressure, but if he gets taken out here by Identitas, who, by the way, has 4 out of 4 lives, he has all the lives to just push at him. We could see Reciprocity start to really fall behind here, because no one on Pittsburgh Knights is sitting low on lives. They're all sitting pretty, the lowest being Dezo and Monkeys at 3 out of 4. So I'm not going to lie, Pittsburgh Knights at this point have a real opportunity to turn this second half around and put it in their favor, and that's going to be a great instant throw. Identitas will connect onto Rushies, but now we got to start. Oh, but Icy from down low will in fact connect. Talk about throwing a Hail Mary.
And Franchise has got the new drop shot. A lot of things to consider. Fired off the first shot, at least that's what it seemed to echo. Up close, the misroll actually at first didn't really seem to go the negative way. Identivs the nice dodge. Time starting to tick away. Can Reciprocity get here? Can they make enough of a difference? Franchise, he'll be taken down. Rushies, it's all for naught. They've still got F in their control. And the LATAM squad will continue to survive in a duel that extends multiple titles when it comes into Gears of War. Both of these rosters have seen each other multiple occasions. Big thing for Pittsburgh. We talked about it. The initial, they grabbed the drop shot. They control the rest of the round. And by the time that Reciprocity got their hands on it, obviously didn't really make a ton of difference,
Yep.
but I think the reason why it didn't was because of the position that they were put in initially, but not having the drop shot.
That's right. That's right. Pittsburgh Knights winning that initial made all the difference in the world. And potentially the shot being placed, more utility was the right answer, right? I mean, obviously it's the natural progression that happens on these weapon trees, but they were a little bit behind because they did, in fact, place that drop shot in mid. But regardless, they're all caught up. And now the instant is, in fact, going to be halved. So that's more utility to be thrown around. So if Pittsburgh Knights come through, they win that initial on that drop shot once again, we could, in fact, potentially see them tying this series up 4-4. And that'd be a special comeback because we talked about how rough this second half has been for Pittsburgh Knights. Reciprocity's been doing such a great job, but this is going to be the tell of this round here at this start, and Powers and Icy are going to be the first ones to get in deep onto that cut. They're going to be all on top of that drop shot, and Powers is, in fact, going to be able to take it. Now, I will say, though, Powers has the drop shot, but if a couple of good kills come through, Pittsburgh Knights could still maybe get themselves out of the woodworks here. Identis is holding his own.
Definitely is. Good work toward this train side as his good old teammate Sleeper is doing some great work. Monkeys as well gets the drop onto Rushies. And they're starting to make the OE opportunity, and for good reason. They're controlling every other hill on the map. Might as well go for the home of Rec. Franchise falls. Kenny as well. He'll be taken down. Icy. Rushies not going down, at least as of yet. They're still fighting through this, and they're still continuing to spawn on up. They have confidence in themselves, and based off of that fight, they managed to distance back the enemy, and they'll probably take Monkeys as a sacrifice. And it looks as if they will. They'll manage to get back out of their base, and all things considered, as Rec will finally be able to get another cap on the board. They now start to focus their attention at E, which at the moment is by no means the most heavily staffed if you're Pittsburgh. You've only got 2 players here to defend off the rip. This could start to turn into a great opportunity. Here comes a number of different ensigns. Nothing landing as of yet. Icy hanging out in pocket. Powers just behind him. Reciprocity starting to duel back as time goes on. There goes Kenny. Icy as well is knocked. And Powers will be finished off. A great response here coming in from Pittsburgh off the back of what seemed to be a failed OE opportunity. They're still alive.
Levin, I'm not going to lie. I think Pittsburgh Knights has turned this game around. I think they're going to be able to take this 5-4, especially if they win this fight, at least for this round overall. I mean, you're looking at Franchise last life, Rush's last life. Icy's getting dropped. Reciprocity, they're going to retake E, but at what cost and for how long? Now, this is going to be some good pressure. I think Reciprocity knows their only option at this point is to go for the total domination.
Yeah.
They've got to apply that pressure on D. Pittsburgh Knights need to hold their own here. If they don't stop this push, they're going to lose this.
They have to be careful as well with that future drop shot. How do you play this? Do you back up? Do you allow for Pittsburgh Knights to maybe get out of their spawn? A lot of different things to think about for Rec. As like I said, that domination is going to need to come in. Icy, first one to be taken down. Thankfully, he's not one of the 2 players on 0 respawns. Rushies, of course, is one of those. We saw him clutch up in the first half on 0 respawns. Can't do it again. He'll be taken down, receiving some shots from afar, and will be cleaned up. Rec in a permanent 4 versus 5. Just as I say that, Franchise falls as well. 3 versus 5. Powers trying to pick it up. Trying to play some great offense as well as defense, depending on the situation. Player number 4 actually went for the decap. Icy, he'll be taken down. Dezo instantly goes for the cap onto E. And that will be 2 caps back-to-back. Pittsburgh, they are on fire. And it looks as if they will, in fact, manage to grab their 4th round, their 2nd in a row, and our 2nd on broadcast, round number 9.
It's a big win for Pittsburgh Knights if they take this first map here on Asylum, especially heading into District. We know how strong Reciprocity is on that map. I'm not going to lie, though, Pittsburgh Knights, they're strong on District themselves, but this is for sure at least going to guarantee a game number 3 if District goes into the hand of Reciprocity. But overall, a fantastic comeback for the side of Pittsburgh Knights, and they're in the position at this point with Respawn Economy to be able to take game number 9, or round number 9 rather. I think they're going to be able to do so, but you do notice disables have been placed, right? It's going to be less utility being added to the map, or losses. The ensigns are in fact going to be locked, so those will not be in play. The only utility will be the shock, of course, as well as your overall flashes. This next battle, though, for mid, still is going to take the cake. Reciprocity won it last time, but it wasn't enough.
Wow.
And Kenny, though, with a nice... Actually, franchise...
What?
What the... Kenny just walked through monkeys.
That was a huge pickup that Reciprocity managed to get. They go for the clutch revive, and they have that 2 versus 1. Kenny, right place, right time, and he'll be rewarded for his efforts. And that's a massive pickup for Rec. All things considered, we've talked about how influential the drop shot is. You've heard us say it enough, but it's big here, especially in this round number 9. Rec, you can't let this one go into the night. Have to be prepared for it. And we know what Reciprocity can do. They're not going to over-challenge. They're not going to try and instantly, at least, try to get into a situation of which they're not comfortable with. They're going to make Pittsburgh really work for this retake. They're going to make them work for that capture onto E. As Powers references back, like we said, Reciprocity, a lot of teams in their position with that drop shot, they'd start to force the issue forward. They'd begin to make the opposition feel uncomfortable. Not the case here for them as Pittsburgh look to try and take over E. We'll see how successful this will be.
Oh, Kenny. On to Chaos with the drop. That's going to get him off that barrier. Leaving Rushies now. There's no reason to push up, right? He's not wanting to get in a cut. At least I wouldn't think so, right? He just wants to maintain his life. Pittsburgh Knights, they're going to have to recuperate, really think about what they want to do. But I do believe there's still 1 drop shot remaining, and Kenny is still in the back. Pittsburgh Knights knows this is why they're not committing as much. Sleeper, he's going to go ahead and backtrack. A lot of time being wasted here. Reciprocity has a nice size lead, 170 to 99, now 100, but Pittsburgh Knights in a little bit of trouble here. And now their only option, you see them setting up 2 strong onto D. They're going to set up 3 strong up top of E. With them securing E, let's see what these 2 players down low. Player number 7 and 8, that's going to be Monkeys and Identives. They'll push into D, but you saw that kill come through. Kenny with the 2-piece. That should solidify Reciprocity. Should be able to retake E, and Rushies will take Dezo out. Now we're seeing the lives really start to crumble away. And look at how far pushed up Reciprocity is on Pittsburgh Knights base.
If you're Pittsburgh at this moment, it's your last opportunity for a push. Dezo Identives on 0 respawns, and Rushies is not making their lives any easier up close. The trade comes through, and that's a positive, a net positive if you're Reciprocity. Taking down Identives, players off of spawn, it's not going to matter. The LATAM squad, unfortunately, will not be able to take their map choice as players exploding and fading off into the distance. Reciprocity, they will clean up this game and managed to take a big first match, like we discussed, on Pittsburgh Knights' map choice. That's huge for them.
It's massive, right? And now we're heading to District. I already mentioned before how strong Reciprocity is on that very map, so that definitely worries me.